Hey everyone, it's Jake here. How's it going? And welcome back to another Pokemon Go PvP video. And we have another kind of a special video for you guys today. Have you guys ever been curious about, what you can run as an off-meta pick in a freestyle tournament? Well, in today's video, we actually have a top 10 off-meta PvP Pokemon guide for you that you may follow along if you'd wish. Now, these aren't going from top to bottom. Like, my number one pick isn't the best off meta. These are just my favorite top 10 off meta Pokemon that I think you should give a spot if you are using them as an off meta option. So this is just for like a fun little video to teach some of you guys who would like to run off meta Pokemon what some of the really strong options are for you. So right before we hop into this, if you guys are new here, please don't forget to smash that subscribe, leave a like, comment down below. You guys know the deal. And make sure to follow my Twitter, my Twitch, blah, blah, blah. Live streams this weekend. Well, I'll definitely be live streaming tomorrow, Saturday. So make sure twitch.tv/theycallmejake. Make sure to hit me with that follow. And all of that is really appreciated. So without further ado, guys, let's get right into your top 10 off meta PvP Pokemon. So in the number one spot here, we have our boy Mew, or our girl Mew. Does Mew even have a gender? I don't even know, but yeah, we got Mew at the top spot. Again, these aren't going in order. I just have top 10 because these are the top 10 Pokemon in my opinion. So number one, Mew. Why Mew, you may ask? Well, for one, Mew has an extremely wide variety of moves in this move pool. So that means it is very, very unpredictable, making it a force to be reckoned with as an off-meta pick. The reason I consider it off-meta is because you don't really see people running Mew. There's a certain meta, even in Freestyle Great League, and Mew can definitely put a huge hassle on those Pokemon that are very much often used in the open Great League meta. So let's take a look at PvPoke rankings and see why I consider Mew one of the top off meta Pokemon. So as you guys see here, we are on PvPoke. I'm sorry for that glare on my glasses, guys. There's nothing I can do about it. I've seen a few comments about it, but there's nothing I can do. But yeah, we have Mew here in all Pokemon, and it's ranked number 54th. Now that is definitely an off meta, but look at its score. It's really not that bad. It's 85. But like I said, this is its move pool, guys. Look at those moves. That is why I consider Mew to be unpredictable, because it literally is. You don't know what you're going up against, and its matchups are very key here because it beats things like Medicham, Hypno, Jirachi, Lucario, and Defense Deoxys. These are the Pokemon that you almost always see in a team of 6 or even in a team of 3. So many people in Open Great League run Defense Deoxys, and you cannot say they don't, because they definitely do. And things like Jirachi and Hypno and Medicham are getting even more use now. Especially things like Hypno and Jirachi. People have been swaying towards those more lately. Same thing with Medicham. Obviously, Medicham's always going to be there. Lucario, not so much, but these matchups aren't even half of its key matchups. That's just with a good moveset like Shadow Claw, and I mean, what else would beat the fighters and the psychics? Probably Shadow Claw, Dark Pulse. It just has amazing coverage overall, and not many people have Mew under 1500, so that is why I consider it a top option in the Great League PvP meta. So guys, in the number 2 spot, we have one of my recently favorited Pokemon from my Ghost Stadium Freestyle Tournament, and that is Drifblim. Now, you guys may think, if you guys even know Drifblim's moveset, you may think, well, it's predictable, right? But it's a Pokemon that you definitely will not expect. This is certainly an off-meta pick that I almost never, I shouldn't even say almost, I've never seen anyone in any freestyle tournament ever use a Drifblim, but I did, and it walls the fighting type so hard, guys. Things like Medicham, Defense Deoxys, what else? It just walls it so hard, and It also is able to beat the ground types like Whiscash very, very well, and it can also wall the grass types because of that flying subtyping it has. Drifblim is a ghost and flying, for you guys who don't know. So those two typings combined make up a lot of its solid resistances. For example, it is immune technically to fighting moves, but since Pogo has no immunity tier, it is taking very, very tiny amounts of damage from Medicham. But overall, it's just a complete wall. It can beat things like Venusaur, it can beat Tropius, it can beat Medicham, Defense, Deoxys, just to name a few things. And let's take a look at its PvPoke rankings to see exactly what's going on with this Pokemon here. So guys, on PvPoke, we got our boy Drifblim ranked at number 55 with a score of 85. As you can see, Hex, Shadow Ball, and Ominous Wind are the two best moves for it. Ominous Wind, you have that boost opportunity. Shadow Ball, you just have that hard-hitting move like Haunter. And then you can actually go with Icy Wind if you want more coverage against the grass users. Or any other flying Pokemon. And as you can see here, it completely dominates all of the top fighting options in the Open Great League meta. This is definitely an off-meta pick that is super anti-meta as well. So, just like Mew, we have another hard counter to the fighting type Pokemon because of its typing. It's purely just way too good for the fighters, and that's why I consider this in the number 2 spot on the top 10 off-meta Pokemon. And I mean, besides that, we take a look at all of its matchups. Obviously, it'll get walled by anything that's pure normal type. And same thing with anything that's dark. Because, you know, Ghosts is dealing not very effective damage to the Darkmons. And things like Alolan Eradicate are double resisting. But overall, it just has a great set of moves. And its typing is very, very good. Even things that hit it for super effective damage won't be one-shotting. It even has decent matchups against Azumarill, considering Azumarill has Ice Beam. So yeah, that is why I consider Drifblim at the number 2 spot. So next up, at the number 3 spot, we have our boy Victory Bell. And this is going to be a Razor Leaf Victory Bell, to be exact. Now, Razor Leaf Victory Bell, guys, is definitely a few steps down from Venusaur, which is why it is an off-meta pick. Now, the differences between this are that Victory Bell has Razor Leaf and can choose between Leaf Blade, Sludge Bomb, or Acid Spray. I would go with probably Sludge Bomb and Leaf Blade. And if the opposing Venusaur opts out from shields, then that Sludge Bomb can still do a ton of damage. Victory Bell is just an overall beast to use against a lot of the key matchups in the open freestyle meta. Things like Swampert, Azumarill, Vigoroth, and Wigglytuff, it will absolutely just... It gets just wiped out instantly, like deleted instantly, guys. So those often used Swamperts and Azumarills you see in Open Great League will get absolutely annihilated by Victory Bell. You guys don't really need too much of a tutorial on how to do that. You've probably used Victory Bell once or twice before, but its main downsides are that it does get walled by anything that's flying, like Altaria, Skarmory, Golbat, to name a few. Victory Bell overall is just a really solid off-meta pick that can surprise your opponents who may not be expecting it. You guys have seen Victory Bell get used in Worlds and Regionals a bunch. Yeah, Victory Bell has proven its worth as one of the off-meta freestyle picks. Alright guys, so in the number 4 spot we have our boy Magnet, which is a Legacy Magneton with that Thundershock and that Discharge. And paired with Magnet Bomb, Magneton, is scary. It's a scary off-meta pick. Not many people use it in Open Great League. But it does have a supreme role of countering Skarmory, Altaria, Bastiodon, Tropius, and Hypno, to name a few. Although it will get walled by the ground types. Like Marowak, Flygon, Whiscash, any of the Mud Boys will wall it pretty hard. Same thing with the fighting types. The fighting types will be able to farm it down, but those magnet bombs still do a decent amount of damage to the fighters. And same thing with the electric charge moves. So overall, Magneton is a really spammy Pokemon that is 2 times resisting the flying attacks coming from Altaria and Skarmory. And it is resisting Dragon as well. So on top of that, it has an amazing resistance pool that makes it very, very viable in the open Great League meta. Alright guys, so next up in the number 5 spot we have Lanoon. And the reason I put this here is because it is definitely an off meta pick that has very, very good coverage against a majority of the freestyle Pokemon. So for starters, you want to be running Shadow Claw, and you can pick between Grass Knot, Thunder, or Dig. Personally, I would go Grass Knot and Thunder because you have that great coverage against Skarmory, against Haunter, and other things like Azumarill, the Mud Boys, and any other flying, water, or fighting type Pokemon, I guess. But you guys see that with Shadow Claw, it is dealing super effective damage to Haunter and Alolan Marowak. And with Dig, it can hit both those Pokemon with super effective damage as well as Bronzong. Now, it is pure normal type, so that means it will be getting beaten up really bad by Vigoroth, Hitmontop, Machoke, Medicham. But it is able to fight back against things like Defense, Deoxys, and Medicham because of that Shadow Claw damage. So keep that in mind. But Lanoon overall is a really tanky Pokemon that can fill a role as a grass attacker or even a ground or electric type attacker. So it's very good for coverage, and you know, it only has one weakness, and that is to fighting. Because Shadow Claw's energy gain is so high, it gets to these moves much quicker than you would think, which is why it is a very strong off meta pick for your team. Alright guys, so at the number 6 spot, we have Alolan Ninetales. And I know for a fact Alolan Ninetales is definitely an off meta Pokemon. And the reason I'm choosing this is because it has very good typing. So being Ice and Fairy type, it is completely immune to Dragon type moves, which makes it a super hard counter to Altaria, which is one of the strongest open Great League meta Pokemon there are. I used this in a freestyle tournament, but traded it out for Azumarill because of the tankiness that Azumarill provides, and the fact that Skarmory is being used much more in freestyle than Altaria used to be. So if we take a look at Alolan Ninetales here, it's ranked 87th, has a score of 82, and with Powder Snow, Ice Beam, and Psyshock, it is able to fire those off very quick because of Powder Snow's high energy gain, which means it is a supreme counter to a lot of the flying types and dragon types like Altaria, Dragonite if you ever see that in Great League, Tropius, which is a huge favorite of many people. There's Golbat, and then there's Lugia, which is slowly but surely on the rise in the Open Great League. So yeah, overall it's a very strong off meta pick that will completely wall any of the dragon types or flying types that want to come at your team. But just be on the lookout because the steel types will be coming and hunting you down, as well as any rock users like Bastiodon. That is also part steel, and anything that's fighting can also hurt you quite a bit. Because remember, since it's part ice, it is taking the neutral damage from fighting, but it does have that Psyshock to at least fight back. And overall, that is why I consider Ninetales to be in this spot. It has that great anti-meta coverage that can potentially catch your opponents off guard if they aren't paying attention to your team comp. So next, guys, we have in the 7th spot Claydol, and with the newest addition to Claydol's move pool being Earth Power, it is now even stronger than it was before with Earthquake. And you can either run the Mudslap variant or the Confusion variant. I would still go with Confusion because it has that great coverage against the fighting types. And Confusion also charges energy, I believe, slightly quicker than Mudslap, but overall Confusion just hits much harder. So I would go with Confusion. And you could also run Earth Power and pair it with Gyro Ball or Psychic. That's all dependent on what you want. I would go Gyro Ball, Earth Power, because that Confusion damage is already doing the Psychic damage that you want. Psychic's really not needed. But the main selling point here, guys, is that, as you can see here, it does really well against Defense Deoxys, Bastiodon, and Golbat, which are somewhat commonly used in Open Great League. It doesn't say it on here, but Probopass would also be a great matchup for the Claydol because of that Earth Power. So just because of this, I consider Claydol to be one of the top 10 best off-meta Pokemon for you to use in a freestyle tournament. Now, because it is part Psychic and Ground, just be wary of Razor Leaf users and Venusaur especially, because that will be dealing super effective damage. But you have Confusion, which is a great counter to anything that's part Poison, and a majority of the grass types are also part Poison. Some of the things that will wall Claydol are the dark types like Umbreon, which is a fairly common Great League meta Pokemon. And last but not least, you just have that great stat affecting move of Earth Power that can possibly lower your opponent's defense or attack. I forget which one it was, but just a great addition to Claydol's moveset, and a strong Pokemon you should be considering if you are running off meta. Alright guys, so in the 8th spot here we have, you guys know him, you use him in regionals, you're using him in Boulder, it is going to be Gallade. Gallade is a fantastic off meta choice for you if you would like a combination of two things. One, a fighting counter. Two, a grass counter. The reason behind that is because Confusion obviously will be hitting both of those for super effective as long as the grass is part Poison, and it has positive matchups against things like Medicham, Lucario, Hitmonchan, Venusaur, Toxicroak, to name a few. And if you'd like to even go the route of Charm, that also works very well against the fighting type Pokemon. But I recommend Confusion with Leaf Blade and Close Combat, because anything that's flying type can be hit by Close Combat, which will deal pretty decent damage, as Skarmory is one of the more common flyers, and Close Combat will eat a ton of damage from, or will deal a ton of damage to Skarmory, and you have that great Leaf Blade to deal with your water types as well. So overall, great package here coming out of Gallade, being a grass counter, a water counter, and a fighting counter. Just an overall great support Pokemon to have in your squad of 6 if you choose to go off meta. Alright guys, so in the second to last spot, 9th, we have our boy Hitmonchan. Now, you guys may think, well, Hitmonchan isn't really that off meta. Well, I don't agree, because it is a few tiers down from Medicham. So I consider it definitely to be off meta. You're using a weaker variant of the same Pokemon pretty much. So I consider that to be off meta. Hitmonchan has pretty much the same coverage movesets that Medicham does, but it has a few extra. So you're going to want to run counter for sure. Power Up Punch is a definite, and you depending on what your team is looking like, you can have that Fire Punch coverage, the Ice Punch coverage, or the Heat Punch coverage. I would personally go Ice Punch for the grass users, but if you would like a better counter to things like Skarmory, you could go Fire Punch or that T-Punch. But you're going to want to have Power Up Punch 100% to make sure those counters are powered up, because Hitmonchan is definitely a squishier Pokemon. A lot squishier than Medicham, that's for sure. But as you can see here, it has fantastic matchups against so many of the top meta Pokemon like Bastiodon, Lucario, Probopass, Vigoroth, and Umbreon. This Pokemon is just fantastic for being a hard anti-meta pick, so that you can get rid of those pesky Vigoroths, Umbreons, and Probopass, or even Bastiodon if you do come across that. Now, just beware, because Skarmory chunks it down a lot, and same thing with Haunter, Gardevoir, Drifloon, Togekiss, or Drifblim. So as you can see, my boy Drifblim coming into play here against some of the top fighting Pokemon. Hitmonchan certainly hates flying type moves, but it can actually win a few scenarios against Skarmory depending on shields. So keep that into account. This thing has more attack than Hitmon or than Medicham, so it can really get going and it can really sway a matchup. So definitely a Pokemon you may want to run in your off-meta team. But last but not least, guys, in the 10th and final spot, we have Togekiss, a newly implemented charm user that has been making waves throughout the Pokemon Go PvP community, especially in the most recent South American World Championships. So this Pokemon has amazing typing, and it is 2 times resisting fighting moves. So like a lot of the other Pokemon we've highlighted so far, this is yet again another one of those Pokemon that is a crazy good anti-meta pick that is also off-meta. Partly because that charm is dealing super effective to dragons as well as fighters. And you guys definitely see a lot of Altaria and Medicham in freestyle tournaments. So Togekiss is perfect for that role. And as you can see here, it just has a variety, a very, very large variety of hidden powers, which are somewhat useful. But the majority of the time you want to go Air Slash or Charm. I would go Charm for the stab because it just hurts so much. And look at that amazing move pool you have. You have Ancient Power, guys, which is great coverage against any of the Steel Flyers like Skarmory. And it is also has a boost potential. Along that, you can run Aerial Ace or Flamethrower. I would probably just go Ancient Power Aerial Ace for that additional grass coverage, even though you're already resisting grass type moves. Aerial Ace is definitely pretty crucial for that stab. And then as you can see here, it has key matchups against Medicham, Altaria, Lucario, Hitmonchan, and Dragonite. Now, watch out because Togekiss hates the electric moves and as well as the rock moves. So you are not safe whatsoever against Melmetal, Bastion, or Probopass. The main tanks of the freestyle meta are resisting those charms and are pretty much resisting everything you have to throw at them. Yeah, literally everything. Resist Charm, Ancient Power, Aerial Ace, and Flamethrower. So definitely stay clear from those rock and steel type tanks. But Togekiss has a crazy good amount of matchups against so many of the Pokemon. It is a great counter towards the dark types like Umbreon and that pesky Sableye that you constantly are running up against. As you can see here, it just dominates so many Pokemon. It dominates Eradicate, Alolan form. It will dominate Deoxys, I believe, as well. Yeah, look at that, guys. It beats Defense Deoxys form. That is insane. It beats Whiscash, beats Tropius. Overall, a very impressive charm user and definitely one of my favorites to run as an off-meta Pokemon. So yeah, guys, that pretty much wraps it up for my top 10 off-meta PvP Pokemon video. Hope you guys enjoyed this fun little video about me teaching you guys what off-meta Pokemon are valuable in case you ever want to go with off-meta picks. Tell me in the comments down below if you'd like to see a video about maybe the top 10 crucial Pokemon or maybe like top 10 needed Pokemon for just overall PvP, and I will definitely make that as well. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope you learned a few things about the creation of off-meta teams and what options you have to choose from. Now, outside of these 10, there's still so many good options, but I consider these to be some of the most anti-meta picks that are super hard counters to a bunch of the meta Pokemon. As we call them, anti-meta, meaning they beat the meta. So these are definitely really valuable Pokemon that I highly recommend you to at least test and see if you like, because they may be the reason you win your next freestyle tournament. If you guys are new, please don't forget to smash that subscribe, leave that like, and comment down below what other general PvP videos you would like to see, and I'll definitely start working on those, because we do have that month coming up where it's going to be pretty empty. So I gotta make sure I get some content to record. So I will see you guys in the next video. Hope you all enjoyed. So until the next video, guys, hope you all had some fun watching this, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.